guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new or simply not yet subscribed, I'm Brittany, and definitely make sure to hit that subscribe button. I can't wait for the year that I have planned. I'm going to be doing more lives, so you get to see a very unfiltered, unedited version of me. I don't really even go crazy with editing. I just edit out my some of my rambling, and then some of my mispronunciations, which I know there are a lot, and some of my stuttering over words. And then I have multiple investigations planned. I'm very excited about. I don't want to spoil what they are yet, but you will know soon enough. And then on top of that, I will be releasing a podcast. So if you guys like listening to all of the myths and the paranormal soon, you can listen to it while you're driving or walking. And if you like watching it, you'll still be able to watch it on here. So these will just be longer episodes of things that we talk about. But with that being said, let's dive in to our topic for the day. The movie The Exorcist would come to theaters on December 26, 1973. However, this was not the public's first introduction to an exorcism. Only 2 years prior, NBC would televise the first ever exorcism on television. This was a short news piece and would consist of an interview with Edwin and Marsha Becker in their living room, and then it would go on to show an exorcism of the home. The reporter's name was Carol Simpson, and Edwin Becker, his wife Marsha, and their infant daughter would move into a 2-story home that would be converted into apartments in 1970. Little did they know what would be in store for them. So Edwin was very aware. He knew that there was this morbid history when they moved into the house. A lot of times with hauntings, people go in and they have no idea that there were murders. There was no idea that, there was an unaliving. No idea about all this bad juju. He knew. He just thought, hey, a splash of paint there, some new carpet. It's fine. It'll be fine. And he would regret that thought. 5 family members had died in the home, 2 on each floor and 1 in the basement. 2 of the deaths would be because they unalived themselves, and 1 of them was a suspected murder. But all 5 of them were considered to be mental deviates, which essentially just means that they weren't of sound mind. They had a mental disorder or something along those lines. The most recent death in the home would happen right before the Becker family would move in. It was a man by the name of Ben. Well, Ben had a hobby of making his own pornographic materials. He would end up being found dead, and the house would go up for sale at a low cost. But new paint, carpet, what could happen? Immediately after the Beckers moved in, things would start happening. It seemed that the spirits were very adamant that this was their place and they wanted to make their presence known. They did not want the family there. Steps would be heard in the back of the house regardless of the time. Room and cabinet doors would slam violently shut, and these horrifying screams would fill the home. The phone would literally rise up, hover mid-air for several minutes, and then crash down onto the dock. Just to clarify, this was a landline, not a cell phone. Had a dock. Yeah, this is old. The kitchen mixer that was attached to the wall would go and fly across the room. The keys to various doors in the home would go missing, and some were even found bent and twisted. I don't know if you've ever tried to twist a key. You can't really do it very easily with your hands. It's pretty hard. At least I can't. Maybe I'm just weak. Possibly the worst incident occurred, and I do think this is the worst incident, but this is so disturbing. A pair of unseen hands would lift their cat and hold it out of the second floor window and then drop it 20 feet to the pavement below. Obviously, the cat didn't make it. It's horrible. Like, I don't think I could spend another night in my home if that happens. Like, I can deal with twisted keys. I can deal with cabinet slamming, messing with my pets, killing my pets. Nope, can't do it. Yeah. So obviously the Beckers would become desperate to get rid of these entities. But most people didn't believe them. They would have a priest come to bless the house, and during his visit, the holy water that was held in a brass container, the container would shatter all over the room, and the priest refused to enter the home again. A lot of the Beckers' friends would be like, "You're making this up, like, you're exaggerating." And yet, they didn't want to go to their home. Maybe they thought they were crazy, or maybe they were too scared to admit that something was actually happening. The NBC interview opens with the Beckers talking about the haunting. They even said that one night they were awoke by the sound of a woman crying. And Edwin said, "I hated to think of what it was." The exorcism itself would be performed by medium Joseph DeLuise and Reverend William Darrell Davis of the Independent Spiritualist Church in Chicago. The Beckers had previously reached out to the Catholic Church, and they had been ignored. I do know that it is incredibly hard to get an exorcism done in general. I'm not really sure about exorcisms on a house. I know it's so hard to get an exorcism done on a person because of how dangerous it is. And that's why only specific people are allowed to perform exorcisms. But I don't know if that would be different for a house. Anyways, DeLuise would go into this trance state, and a spirit would then use him as a vessel to speak. Now, what is left of this news clip is very distorted, but it's believed to have been a woman that had spoken through him. The exorcism of the home consisted of showing the entity that it has no reflection in the mirror. Honestly, this exorcism sounds like such a joke. I've never experienced an exorcism, but this doesn't seem like this is the way to get rid of an angry spirit or spirits. Anyways, the exorcism of the home consisted of showing the entity that it has no reflection in the mirror, as well as offering it communion. Then they spread blessed salt throughout the home. I mean, salt is supposed to be cleansing, it's supposed to be like this barrier. And they'd also spread the salt on the roof and the garage, which was said to seal the home symbolically and keep the spirits from returning. The broadcast would end stating that the exorcism was a complete success, but the Beckers had other thoughts on that. In 2011, Edwin Becker would write about what him and his family experienced in that home. Now, several publishers were extremely interested in his book, but they wanted him to exaggerate his claims and embellish his story to make it scarier. Edwin was like, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay true to what we experienced," which I do applaud him on. And because he didn't want to embellish anything, he actually ended up going and self-publishing the book. The book was titled True Haunting, and it would end up being turned into a movie with the same title. I did not watch the movie, and I also did not read the book. I just researched their haunting, but their haunting obviously sounds very interesting, what they had experienced, and kind of devastating at the same time. So if you want to read it, I'm sure it is amazing. It does put a lot of discrepancies to the NBC broadcast. The NBC broadcast said that the family was being haunted by one spirit. However, in the book, Edwin talks about multiple spirits. And he even says in the book that the exorcism was a complete and utter failure. He stated, There is no happy ending, as a young couple suffers emotionally or physically threatened and have their pets terrorized. The Becker family even ended up selling their home for only $10 because they were desperate to be rid of the property. Like I said, there are numerous discrepancies between the news broadcast and the book, as well as things you'll find online. One being that you will find an account that the family had sublet part of the building to a young mother whose infant was threatened by the spirits. However, the news story says that the Beckers were the one that had the infant child. One thing we do know, though, that the family was truly terrorized by something. Edwin deeply regretted him taunting the spirits and not taking them seriously, and he truly believed that he made the spirits dislike them more. In his book, he says that he allowed the spirits to figure out where he was emotionally vulnerable, and that they had to use that information against him, and that the spirits had considered him and his family intruders. Edwin says that ghosts can be seen and heard, can appear as solid as you or me. They can propel objects and interrupt utilities. They can affect your moods and feed off of your emotions. They can become hostile and violent when threatened. They can harm you, and they can't be moved. So essentially, like, you can try to exorcise them, you can try to get rid of them, but it's not going to work. It truly is a very interesting case. And it's really sad to be tormented in the place that's supposed to be your safe place. It does seem like the haunting did end when they had moved out. So the spirits were definitely much more attached to the home than they were the family, which is a great thing. I mean, I guess this is just another example of don't believe everything you see on TV, because the broadcast was like, oh yeah, this was a success. We did it. Great job, guys. And they're like, no, like, we were still terrorized. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about this case. I want to hear all of your guys' thoughts. If you have had any hauntings or paranormal experiences of your own, I would love to hear them. You can go ahead and email me at brittanybrewghosts@gmail.com. In the meantime, make sure to like this video, make sure you're subscribed, and until my next video, I love you guys. Bye.